Today on DNVR Buffs Live, does Colorado already have a star in their running back room, or do they have to go searching for that? Let's dive in.
Buff Nation.
Let's go.
Squad.
Nothing. Just, I feel like you just called in sick for Buff Nation.
Well, the throat ain't feeling its best. I'm trying to. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Today would have been a good day to recoup while Scotty's still here.
You could have, bro. You got that?
Nah, I'm talking running backs.
Or said he wanted to be here for that conversation. All
right,
no days
go.
off.
Coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your front range Toyota stars. It's DNVR Buffs Live. Yes, today we are talking running backs, recruiting update, NFL Combine preview. But yeah, the running back room, we're going to start off with maybe the most important room for the potential ceiling of this team.
I think that this room is a real case study about football. And I say that because everyone wants to have an identity of running the football. Like, that sounds so good in theory. But my question is, are you really just a commitment away from having it? Like, is running the ball all about actually running the ball? If you know what I'm saying. I know that sounds silly, but like,
I hear you.
It's so easy to just be like, oh yeah, we want to hit teams in the mouth and we want to have a physical running game. And then you get out there and it's 2nd and 7 and you're just like, yeah, we're passing the ball. And I don't think that that's going to happen with this team this year. I think that they are going to make a real commitment to running the football. And I think built into that, we may just see this team, like these running backs especially, evolve into becoming stars. I think that, Michael Welch and Isaiah Augusta both have star potential. But my question is, can you make them into stars by wanting them to be stars? Because I think they have the talent. Mm-hmm. So can you just say, like, we're going to make sure of it and make that happen?
I think there's definitely something to that, because the running game, running the football, particularly in college football and the level above the NFL, like, it really starts with a mentality. It starts with, like you said, wanting to do it and putting an emphasis on it from this time, from the springtime. You know what I'm saying? And again, when you have Shedeur Sanders as your quarterback and you have Travis Hunter to throw the ball to, like, the running game is going to come second. It's going to be secondary. It's going to be complementary to what you really want to do, to what is your offense is best at. But, with this kind of new group, with a new quarterback, whoever it may be, like, this has to be the emphasis of this offense. Like, this has to, I don't want to say a run first team, but close to it. The split should be close to 55-45. 60-40 is probably a bit of a stretch either way, but it has to be, you have to find a sweet spot. I feel like if you're Pat Shurmur, and to talk about this running back room, there is talent there. I agree with you. I think there are at least 2 potential stars in this running back room. Jake and I in particular, I think you feel the same way, RK. Like, we feel really good about Michael Welch and his potential. As soon as, this year as a true sophomore, like, we saw glimpses of it, his true freshman year in 2024. And even Isaiah Augusta, who came on really strong to end the year, like, averaging 4.5 yards per carry on, damn near 100 carries is pretty impressive, especially when you didn't have a ton of room to work with up front. And I think, his ascension kind of his trajectory was going upwards as the season went on, talking about Isaiah Gustav. And again, with another full offseason, with Michael Welch having another full offseason, at the college football level, you throw in Dallan Hayden and Charlie Offerdal as well, potentially some other guys, Isaiah Hart and some other guys we might get into. This running back room has the potential to be really good, assuming that the emphasis is there, assuming that the protection, the running lanes are being afforded to those guys from the guys up front. Like this could be a really different look and a real different feel to this offense than what we've seen the last 2 years.
It's a mentality, but they have to do it. They have to do it this year. You have no choice. Whether it's Julian Lewis, who's a true freshman starting at quarterback, or Caden Salter, whose strength is in the running game, the option game, and the RPO game, you just have to do it. So someone's got to step up. And are they on the roster right now? We'll get to that. But with what we saw from Micah, I mean, remember, Micah kind of got robbed of a bit of his freshman season with that injury, right? Mm-hmm. Like that hamstring injury lingered for a while. And then even in the bowl game, when it was like he's full go, we didn't really see much of him. He might have had a couple carries in that bowl game. That's it, though. He only had 43 carries on the season.
Yeah.
He's still very green. And, it's only a year ago, last spring, he tore up spring practices. He basically is the reason why they had to rebuild the running back room last spring.
Yeah.
So remember that about Micah. But yeah, what Isaiah did last year, averaging 4.5 yards per carry, with that offensive line, with the way the offense was designed, and with the limited opportunities he got, you can't help but think, what if he had more to work with, more opportunities, right? So it's going to be interesting for those two. We'll get to Dallan Hayden in a second, but I do think both those guys have the potential to carry the room or be a star. It's just, does Pat Shurmur, can this offense, are they built to do that?
So real quick, let's kind of reverse engineer it. To me, a star is, in this context, a guy who eventually becomes the undoubted number one.
Yeah.
And probably rushes for 1,000 yards or better.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, straight up, yes or no, is there a star in this room right now?
Yes.
Both of those boxes have to be checked that you just said?
Uh-huh. There's no way your star running back is sharing carries or finishing the season with 875 yards.
Well, then I'm going to say yes then, because I think, but I hesitate only because I do think, based off what we've seen in the last couple of years, is that this will be a committee. They're going to want to give multiple guys opportunities, and I think that might prevent one guy from breaking 1,000 yards if, 3 guys are getting, damn near 100 touches in terms of carries and catches, you know what I'm saying? So that was my only pause in terms of, the kind of 2 boxes you laid out to check for a star. Because, again, I think they're going to give each guy an opportunity to show. If somebody hasn't already emerged as the number one guy before week 1, I think much like last year, they're going to give each of these guys an opportunity. All 3 of those guys, Dallan, Micah, and Isaiah, a chance to prove that they are the number one and they deserve the bulk of the carries.
And I would also accept an answer of there's 2. And that's the way that maybe one of them doesn't become the unquestioned number one and doesn't become a 1,000-yard rusher.
Possible.
If you had 2 guys who were over 800 yards or something like that,
Absolutely.
then I'll accept that answer as well.
Adding Caden maybe with like 600-700 too. Like
yeah,
now you're cooking.
I mean, if you do that, you're going to win a lot of football games
for sure.
And I think my answer is yes, and I do think it's Michael Welch. Now I don't think he's the only one that could become a star. There's a lot of star potential around these guys. I mean, even Dallan Hayden is a very highly rated recruit who went to Ohio State before coming to Colorado. He has it in him.
Yes.
Micah just has that something.
Yep.
That when I see him run, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see it. I can see the vision of him becoming a star.
Yes.
More easily than anyone else. And so, yeah, I think they do. I think they do have it.
And I think, as much as we've already mentioned Pat Shurmur in this conversation, like Marshall Faulk will be a big reason why somebody potentially, or 2 guys potentially kind of blossom into a star, because this is kind of uncharted territory for him and those guys. Like he's never really coached at this level, at least at this level before. And I don't think those guys have ever been coached by somebody at their position who has accomplished the things that he has done. So it's going to be interesting. I'm fascinated to see who Marshall Faulk kind of has an affinity for, who he kind of sees as maybe the top guy, or if after the spring he decides that we need to get somebody else in here, somebody who does different things than the guys that we currently have in that room. So I think Marshall Faulk is going to help somebody, again, maybe even 2, maybe even 3 guys really blossom into the best version of themselves, and that's really exciting.
But I kind of think this coaching staff gave us a glimpse into what they think about this running back room by not adding anyone in the portal.
Yeah,
right.
You add Marshall Faulk to this running back room, and they didn't add anyone from the portal. They didn't even bring someone in for a visit that played running back.
Is that the only position
I'm pretty sure
out of the portal, right, that they didn't add to, right? They added corner, safety, linebacker, D-line, O-line, receiver.
I think you're right.
yeah, tight end.
Quarterback and tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's crazy.
pretty interesting. I mean, they did go after the
Yeah, Mackay.
what was that?
Tulane? From Tulane, yeah.
I wanted to say Tulsa.
Right. But we've seen bigger emphasis on it in the previous years under Coach Prime here.
Definitely.
Right? Like Michael Welsh, that was a target for damn near a year that they went after. He came on visits and stuff, and they had multiple guys, 4 stars. Byron Louie was one I remember last year who came on a visit and stuff. Like they had recruits come in on visits, but after the season, it feels like they really looked at what the 24 team did well, how it was built, and then looked at the running back room and maybe saw that it was held back a bit because of the way the team was built, and they just feel good about the room at this point.
Totally, and I think that it goes to a overarching look at the roster, which I think their strategy this year in the portal was only go after guys who are very obviously an upgrade. Mm-hmm. Don't just get guys to get guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And before, I mean, when Coach Prime first got here, it was certainly just get guys to get guys.
For sure.
I think last year in the portal, it was like get guys at positions of need for sure. And then, let's try to get some guys who are obvious upgrades as well. This year, I think it was just obvious upgrades. That's all we're looking for. And even if it's an obvious upgrade to depth, it was just obvious upgrades. And I think that at running back, they just didn't see someone beyond the guys that they went after and didn't get. They didn't say like, okay, but we still got to get someone. They just said, okay, if we don't get that guy, then we're good with what we have. And it was mentioned in the comments that they're still the spring portal. So maybe that is a place. Maybe Marshall Faulk says like, man, I really want a guy with this skill set. And they go search for that in the spring portal. And Dallan Hayden was spring portal, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Rashad Amos either. I wonder what he's up to nowadays. But
Also, I didn't say they're not recruiting running backs.
Right. And also, I think that, when it comes to Brandon Hood, who was mentioned a lot in the comments, we just haven't seen anything. So it's hard to project off of not seeing anything. What we do know about him is that he has lightning fast speed.
good build to him too.
Yes, and that is a weapon that can certainly be used in that room and just in the offense in general if they can find a way, and he can earn his way out on the field.
And he was a dog in high school, so you mentioned it. He has the build. He has, he is a hood at the end of the day, and we know they can ball. But just kind of going into what you were talking about too about them not really adding running backs out of the portal, really targeting them even in the high school ranks. I feel like it's also because they feel like there's some real untapped potential just with how they've continued to construct the roster. Like two guys in particular who I feel like are going to help this running back room as a whole really flourish in 2025. Caden Salter and Zach Atkins. Like, especially when you look at the running game in 2024 this past year, like it's almost always in 10 personnel. You have 4 receivers on the field, which means you just have 5 linemen. So it's pretty much 5 on whatever they have in the box, or it's 5 to 6, 7 guys potentially. When you have a tight end on the field and you have a running quarterback on the field, you're adding 2 guys into their run game. So you're pretty much playing 7 on 5 sometimes, 7 on 6 because of Caden's ability to pull the football and use his legs, and the defender has to pay attention to him. And again, you have a Zach Atkins, that's like a 6 offensive lineman sometimes, which is something that running backs in 2024 almost never had if Savell Smalls wasn't on the field when he, minimally was used. So those 2 guys in particular are going to be a big reason why each of those running backs in that room are going to have additional opportunities and more room to run and show what they can do.
Well, damn, they added so many offensive linemen too. 6 offensive lineman sets. Let's go, man.
The O-line has to be better.
Yeah.
It has to be better. It will be.
Look.
And they added guys that they believed could help them run the ball.
Right.
And yes, and big guys. Like, I think all of them are over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Chauncey Gooden coming in as a freshman is over 300 pounds. Like,
Do you guys ever have this thought? I have this thought all the time when we're talking about some of this stuff and the changes that they're making this year and the additions of, like, we'll use Zach Atkins as a example. Do you have this thought that there's going to be like a moment in game 2 or 3 where we're just thinking like, my God, if they could have just gotten a Zach Atkins for Shedeur?
yes.
I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
I like, or there's a game where they start the game with like 6 runs and they're moving down the field. And we're just like, imagine if they could have set the tone like this with Shedeur at
Yes,
the quarterback
dude.
position.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bro. And I'm going to go on a tangent here, different, but kind of thinking alongside of that. It's also what makes me so confident about Shedeur in the NFL.
Yep.
Bro did not have a running game the last 2 years. Bro had a below average offensive line the last 2 years. And he still put up the numbers that he did, was as productive as he was. If he has an average NFL running game, an average NFL offensive line at baseline, I feel like he is going to be an absolute dog in the right situation. So, yeah, I just felt like I had to say that.
Let's take our
Love
first
it.
break. Scotty.
Shout out to the homies over at Bet365, man. Hey, it's some breaking news. I got some breaking news for y'all from Bet365. New customers now get $100 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Win or lose. Sign up, use the code DNVR365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $100 in bonus bets if your bet either wins or even if it loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Remember, you must be 21 plus and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. Shout out Bet365.
That was too good, man. You're now officially in the rotation every day. Shout out Elevations Credit Union as well. Our friends over at Elevations Credit Union have created, alongside the University of Colorado, the single sexiest credit card in human history. And that's pretty crazy because there's been a lot of credit cards out there, but this one is unquestioned and undoubted at the top. You got the gold with the black like you see on the screen there, or you can get the black background with the gold buffalo, my personal favorite. But no matter what, when you get the Go Buffs Visa Signature Rewards card with our friends over at Elevations Credit Union, every time you swipe, you're going to be benefiting Colorado athletics, helping us eventually get a national championship. So if you're interested, go to buffscreditcard.com to apply and see full card benefits and details. It's Go Buffs with the Go Buffs Visa Signature Rewards card.
All right, a couple questions in the running back room still. How heavy do you think the rotation will be? Coach Prime seems to love one. Marshall Faulk did everything himself in the NFL and in college.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dichotomy there to think about.
He had 1,000-yard rushing, 1,000-yard receiving season. I still can't get over that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of alluded to earlier, I think unless one of these guys in Marshall Faulk's eyes really elevates themselves and separates himself from the rest of the group before week 1, I feel like the first non-conference play pretty much, I feel like they're going to be rotating these guys and giving them each opportunities to either start or prove that they deserve to start and they deserve the bulk of the carries, the opportunities. Because, again, all three of these guys are very capable. And it's not like there's a big discrepancy in terms of experience. Obviously, Mike is kind of the younger guy, but Isaiah is just a year older than him, and I think Dallan is just a year older than him.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a big, Caden Salter and Julian Lewis experience gap like there is at the quarterback spot. So, again, and because they all kind of have similar games, like they all have downhill games, they all can catch the ball a little bit, but they're best with the ball in their hands, running between the tackles, making guys miss. So, like I said, I feel like each of these guys are going to get an opportunity, and it's going to be up to them to separate themselves from the pack. And if not, they might have to dip into that portal after the spring.
Marshall Faulk listed at 5'10", 211 in his career. Michael Welch, 5'9", 205.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think there will be a heavy rotation, but as you kind of led off the last segment with, I think it's crucial to find a lead back, a quote-unquote bell cow back. A 3 down back, because it just makes you harder to defend. And I mean, we'll see what happens with the quarterback thing, but if they're switching quarterbacks in and out, it might make more sense too at that time to switch running backs frequently as well. But I hope we see multiple running back sets too.
You're going to see a lot of rotation for sure. I think there's a chance, kind of what we talked about at the beginning, if you have a star, someone pulls away and says, like, I'm going to need 75% of these carries. And I hope that's what happens. I swear every running back I've ever talked to in my life said, I played better when I knew I was going to get at least 15 carries.
It's tough, bro, when you feel like you might make a mistake and you might get pulled out.
Yep.
You know, you miss a blocking assignment. Oh, I'm going to get pulled out and I might not play again the rest of the day. Like that leads to you playing slow and all this stuff that you don't really want to be doing out there on the field.
Right. Or you get the ball on first down and it goes backwards 2 yards because your guard got blew up. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, we might not run the ball again this series.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a tough spot to be in.
Expectations for Dallan Hayden. We could also open this up to the Draylon and Cam conversation too. You know, who gets more carries from those wide receivers, but also who catches the most passes out of the backfield. Because I think if there's one thing you look at in this room, that's probably the one weakness right now, is they don't really have a true pass catching back.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. We talked about Isaiah Harge, and that was really attractive, honestly, when we started talking about that. But Dallan Hayden did show good hands last year. If there was one thing that I think shined about him, it was catching the ball out of the backfield. I can't remember what game it was, but he made someone miss in the open field and like got a first down. So there was a couple moments there. I don't know what it is for Dallan, because we saw him, and this goes back to, you know, offensive line and commitment to the running game. He's had a over 100-yard rushing game in the Big Ten.
Yeah, multiple, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say more than one.
And like it was like 125, I think.
Yeah.
He has it in him.
He does.
We did not get a great look at it last year. Mm-hmm. And just being honest, we didn't see much flash of like, oh, there it is. That's the guy.
Right.
Maybe it was an adjustment period. Maybe it was a rhythm thing. Who knows what it may be. He definitely has it in him. I really hope he can unlock it. And he would be like a revelation.
Yes.
If all of a sudden Dallan Hayden unlocked his potential and became the star, it would be transformative for this room.
Definitely. I think it's the biggest unknown in this room is Dallan Hayden at this point, because there were some times he looked pretty bad last year. And I think a lot of that came down to confidence in the offensive line, honestly. He just looked hesitant at times, especially when he's trying to pick a hole.
Yeah.
So if he can unlock that, as you said, and maybe if it is catching passes out of the backfield, I mean, he led the running backs in passes caught in 17. That's not a lot.
Second most of returners on
the
whole team. Second most returners, only behind Draylon.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
he did have that high ankle sprain he suffered early in the season. You'll never be the same after that.
Yeah, against Nebraska,
during
right?
the season. Yep.
And that's why I think, like, he is probably the most unknown. Like, there was a lot of hype coming in, maybe for myself too. Like, I was really excited about Dallan Hayden coming into, this past season, watching some of his film from Ohio State. And I do feel like some of it's like, when you're running behind Ohio State offensive linemen, and then you get to Colorado and you run behind that offensive line last year, it's probably a bit of an adjustment that you have to kind of go through. And I agree too. Like, there was some indecisiveness just in the backfield, and I would like to just see him be more decisive, like just be, more, use his instincts, right? And I feel like that's something that you can coach into him if you're a Marshall Faulk. Like, trust your instincts, bro. Like, if you see a hole, hit it. Like, don't be trying to, make multiple people miss in the backfield and, do too much before you can really get ahead of steam going. So I think Dallan Hayden has a lot of potential. Like we said, 17 catches, like that's not nothing from a running back spot, especially when there's 3-4 other running backs rotating in. I think of that catch and run he had in the bowl game against BYU.
Yeah.
That was one of the most explosive plays of the game.
The year.
100%. Yeah, he had a nice touchdown run against UCF earlier in the year too. And I almost forget about the high ankle sprain. That's something that can definitely derail a season. Even if you come back, you're not 100%.
Absolutely.
And that's an injury that you might want to rush yourself back from too. Especially when you see Isaiah Gustav, Michael Welch, kind of getting, their feet up under them too. So We should not write off Dallan Hayden as we go into this 2025 season because he could very well be a big reason, a big part of this running game here.
So interesting how that happens with injuries. You just, you give a guy a couple weeks in your head.
You're right.
And then we just naturally expect them like, oh, you're out there?
Once you're
All right,
back,
you must be good.
100%.
Right.
And, I even remember Royce Freeman when he came into the Broncos was off to a really hot start. Like I just, I remember talking with D-line being like, we got to make a Rolls Royce shirt.
Yeah.
Fire.
And then he got a high ankle sprain.
And it was over.
It was never the same ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe the high ankle sprain derailed him and whatever. It was a rhythm thing after that, but he never got back to that spot that he was early in his rookie season. And so those injuries, I mean, Baker Mayfield, like his career with the Browns essentially got ended because of an AC joint sprain.
100%. And he tried to play through it, and he came back too early, and he looked like shit when he came back. Yeah, and everybody exactly.
First team offense steps on the field on a week from Tuesday. First play of spring football. Who's the running back?
Charlie Offerdahl.
I could see that too.
Pretty good guess. Pretty good guess.
That's what I think.
He's
still there.
I'll guess Isaiah.
I think it's Micah.
All right, we're three answers. Anyone else in the chat want to take any of the other guys?
Will this room look the same as it is now at the beginning of fall camp?
No. Something will change.
I think I agree too.
Yeah, we all agree. Spring portal's going to be popping, bro. There are good players that pop up in that portal window every single year.
And this year, Colorado, with the spring game on the 19th, they're right in the middle of that portal window too. So they will theoretically have more time after the spring game to still fully scout the portal. May not be the first wave, but I'm sure they will scout the first wave. But you're done with spring football halfway through that portal period. So
I'm surprised that they never tried to. They haven't to this point tried to replace the Dylan Edwards role. And
Cam Michael?
Maybe. But it's such a common thing in college to find a quick little twitchy running back that you can use in a myriad of different ways. And I thought for sure at some point they would try to say, okay, we're not going to be able to get maybe Dylan 1-for-1, but we can get like a quick little back that you can use in different ways.
Yep.
It's curious too because Shedeur, and I don't know, I didn't watch him a ton at Jackson State, so y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like he didn't really have a penchant, at least at Colorado, throwing to running backs. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of the same. I looked at Caden Salter, his career at Liberty. He didn't throw to running backs much. Yeah. So I wonder if that's really a quarterback preference thing, or if that's something that is kind of, given down from the play call of the offensive coordinator. Because again, if that's just not something that's a part of this offense, maybe that's just not of a role that they go out and try to target in terms of that pass catching running back, somebody like a Dylan Edwards. But if that's something that Caden likes, is that something that's a part of Julian's game, which I'm not sure if it is, it might be, it might not be, then at that point, that might be a role, an archetype that you might target.
It's so funny, all the pushback towards you saying Charlie will be the first running back out there, as if it didn't happen in almost every practice before the season last year.
Exactly. Y'all, Coach Prime is still a coach, and he still love him some Charlie Alford, and he's going to get his opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. He's not saying that he's going to be the first running back to take the first snap in week one, although he could be.
It's not off the table.
But Charlie is used as an example to show the other guys how to go about their business.
Facts.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting. One of the most important rooms on the team, in my opinion. And with Marshall Faulk coming in, kind of an unknown at that, too. I mean, first year coaching for him. We'll see, who he kind of takes a liking to in this backfield. The conclusion they come to at the end of spring ball when it comes to changing the room. I think he's the coach I'm most interested in hearing from the most this spring.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea of his philosophy, what he wants to change from what he saw last year. And, obviously as the room progresses, if we could check in with him halfway towards the end of spring ball, that'd be great, just to try and get a vibe of how he feels about the room overall going into the portal.
No doubt about it. I don't know if I agree with you that this is the most important room going into this room, because I think it's the offensive line. But I think it's the room that has the most potential to grow from 2024 to 2025 because of the coaching change, because of all those guys coming back and being a year older and getting a year in this Pat Shermer offense. So I think that's the room that I think can make the biggest jump from last year to this year.
I don't know why does this happen every time?
What?
Y'all love beating the Charlie drum. No, Coach Prime does.
Exactly. Right.
Last year, we asked Ian Neely after every practice, who was RB1? Charlie. So then we're like, Charlie's looking to be RB1 based on what's going on in practice. And everyone's, you guys were wrong about Charlie. He sucks. No, we told you what was happening. We're trying to just give you the insight.
He was literally the week 1 starter. And I think I want to say that might have bled into week 2, maybe Nebraska as well. Maybe
Definitely
even.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
It wasn't until week 3, Colorado State, when I think Micah got the start.
Micah got it. Yep.
Yeah, because Dallan was hurt.
Yep.
Right.
Dallan came in at the end of the Nebraska game.
Yep.
Had some
Yes.
flashes. Was like, oh, here we go.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yep, and then we saw Isaiah a bit at the end of the Colorado State game too.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
We don't get to control who goes on the field. That's up to the coaches.
I was gonna say something. Let's take our next break.
Hey, man, shout out to the squad, the homies over at Live Well, man. Live Well low-key looked out for me recently, man. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, let's go.
Do you remember when we were coming back from New Orleans?
I do remember this conversation exactly.
Do you remember this conversation?
100%.
Our flight landed, I think, at like maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock. And obviously, we're at DIA. You know, we live in, Denver. And it's like, for after you get.
We got a journey back.
Right. After you get your luggage, your check bag, you got a little trek back. I Ubered back. So by the time I actually get back to the crib, it's like damn near 11 o'clock. And typically the dispensaries that I go to, they're closed at 10 o'clock. So I pull up the old Google machine and I'm like, I got to hit something up. Lo and behold, Live Well was the only one still open.
homies, bro.
Right by the crib.
You thought they were going to let you live bad?
Live Well 4L, man. They looked out for me that night. And Live Well will surely look out for you as well, man. Just mention code DNVR25 in store, and you can receive 25% off one of these amazing products today. Some flour, potentially, some other stuff that you might dabble in. So go in, check that out today. Restrictions apply, of course. Shout out to the homies over at Live Well.
Live Well 4L.
Period.
They say. Red Hawk Roofing. Man, the best in the business. And what I love about Red Hawk Roofing is they came to us. And I always just think that's the coolest thing. Like, they were like, man, we love what you guys are doing. We would love to get involved.
Fire.
And it's such a cool thing. It makes us feel special. And then we get to learn something really cool about a cool local business started here by Colorado sports fans who just want to make sure that you have a roof over your head, quite literally. And they have the best. We're getting a little bit more into weather season. You went through the winter.
Yeah.
Maybe you had some stuff go wrong up top. Well, Red Hawk Roofing get you set up, get you taken care of. You can't always see how bad the damage to your roof is from the ground. So hit up our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing, and they can get you all right when it comes to your roof. Go to redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921. Tell them DNVR sent you. They'll love to hear that.
All right. Players are showing up to the NFL scouting combine starting today. The meat of it really starts on Friday and Saturday, though. That's when the Colorado kids are going to work out. Of course, Shedeur opting to wait until Pro Day later in March. Let's do a little over-under for combine.
Skid it.
Okay.
Well, first off, a question. How much will Travis actually work out? Do you think he does everything? And by everything, I mean DB and wide receiver.
And 40 and
40
vertical,
and
broad jump.
bench press. Yeah. How much does he do?
I don't know. I'm torn. Travis Hunter doesn't need to do one damn thing at the
You're
combine.
absolutely right, bro.
Travis Hunter also just loves doing things.
Exactly.
And it's been a while since he's gotten a chance to do things.
Like, I can
with
just
people
imagine him
watching.
being there and like seeing guys run routes and just being like, oh,
Yeah.
I gotta go out there.
That's right. It's just I need to do it.
So I'm going to go against what I would be telling Travis if I was his agent, which is screw it. You don't have to do anything. And go what I know about Travis, which is he sees a football field, he's got to be on it.
Yep.
And say he does everything.
I think he does everything. I'm not going to lie. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's been a while since he's been able to show everybody who he really is. And this is another opportunity that he certainly doesn't need, but I think he's going to use it to remind everybody that he is the 2024 Heisman Trophy winner. He is one of the greatest college football players ever. He is the greatest two-way college football player we've ever seen. I feel like scouting combine in Indianapolis this week will be a good opportunity for people to remember that.
I think he does everything too. Just what you mentioned, he's just wired that way. It's been a while that he's done football things. This is a massive opportunity, of course. He's moving on to the next level. I think he's going to be super excited about it and want to do as much as he can.
Yeah, and excuse my ignorance for not remembering who it was, but there was an article that came out with the NFL director of scouting or something along those lines about Travis. And it was just all about like, oh, we've never had anything like this before. We've never had. And then they were talking about, is he going to get two shirts? Is he going to get a corner shirt and a wide receiver shirt? They were saying, yeah, he can have one if he wants it. I think it's cooler to only have one, only get the corner one, and then show up to the wide receiver practices with the corner shirt on.
Yes.
Maybe fire.
I agree. All right, over under. How fast will Jimmy Horn Jr. run? Over under 4.38.
Under.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to say under. What did Worthy run last year?
Who?
I'll look it up.
Worthy?
Yeah.
He has the fastest 40 in NFL combine history.
And the Bills.
I know, but what was it?
The Buffalo Bills.
4.21.
The Buffalo Bills.
Yes, bro.
Gosh darn.
Who needed to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Traded the Kansas City Chiefs a pick so they could pick the fastest player ever in combine history.
Goofballs.
How dumb do you have to be?
Makes no sense, bro.
And then he scored, 2 touchdowns on them in the... God, they deserved that. They deserved it.
Honestly, a ridiculous Super Bowl performance, too. He went crazy in the Super Bowl.
He did have a crazy performance.
It was all garbage time.
I mean, that's for sure. Yeah, it was. But, I think it finished with, 150 plus, 2 touchdowns. Then they're 8 catches. But
I had the craziest view, and you'll rarely hear me give Patrick Mahomes credit for something. But I had the perfect view of that long touchdown to him. I was right behind where the release point was, and that thing was just from the second it left his hand, I was like, oh, that's a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's just perfectly layered, it was impressive.
I'm feeling 4-3-2 for Jimmy, though. Yeah, Josh just actually, that's the exact time that popped into my head.
You said 4-3-2?
4-3-2.
That's right around where I was thinking. Yeah. So I'll say 4-3-1 just to go one under you.
If he can hit 4.28, he enters into a massive tie for top 10 40-yard dash time in combine history.
Wow.
How fast will Travis run?
This has been a debate from the second Travis became a Buff, and I'm sure it was before that as well. Yeah. But for us, people saying oh, Travis isn't really fast like that.
No.
I think he is,
he
bro.
is. So, Real Analytics, right? They do a lot of the Buff stuff. They posted this yesterday about Travis on both sides of the ball. First off, he's elite. Obvious. We know this, but
you never see Travis in those races or anything, you know, so people are never talking about him as one of the fastest players on the team.
Right.
Or at least not the fastest player.
His in-game athleticism score at both positions was 99.4 at wide receiver, 99.6 at cornerback. His top speed, a 21.4 mile, hitting 21.4 miles per hour. That's 94 percentile that they've tracked. I've got the over-under, same thing at Jimmy, 4.38.
I was telling Jake before the show, I don't think Travis is going to run much slower than Jimmy. I think Travis will also be in the 4.3 range.
When I can see strides are so different.
Yeah, exactly, bro. And it's people. I said to him Jake earlier too. I feel like people sleep on Travis's pure speed because he almost never has to show it off. I don't think we ever really seen him get in a full sprint. Maybe the one time I can remember is his first touchdown of the year, maybe on AH that he just eliminated the
couple of those screens though. The KU screen,
Texas Tech screen. The catch and run against BYU in the bowl game, that was blinding speed.
Yeah,
and then the one that opened my eyes the most was against Baylor when they were down. And he runs that post
and he looks
and
down
he puts his head down. Yeah, middle of the route.
tracks
the
ball.
way he accelerated to go get that ball, I was like, that is unbelievable.
And that's why I feel like people see more of that. They see the acceleration. They see him like go from 0 to 100 really quickly. And then he's typically like tempering it down because he sees defenders. He's thinking about how I'm gonna make you miss. But his straight line speed, I feel like, is slept on. And I feel like people are gonna see that and be surprised when he runs 4.36, 4.37, 4.38, something like that.
He'll have one of the fastest.
Who's the one in the Incredibles who's like super fast?
Dash.
That's what I felt like in that moment. Like he like went into dash mode.
Yeah.
Like, and then just all of a sudden looked up, the ball was in his hands.
Yes,
He's going to have one of the fastest 10-yard splits at the combine.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I thought you were going to put the over-under at 4.4. I was going to say under, but I'll take the under on 4.32.
I'll take the under as well.
4.38.
Yeah.
LaJohntay Wester, I've got a 10th higher at 4.48. I think he gets in the 4.4s at all. It's a fantastic time for him.
I love it. I'll take under. Really quick on Travis. If he goes sub 4.40 and then like some crazy like 46-inch vertical or something.
Vert's going to be crazy.
Like, I just feel like everyone's going to be, all right. Just take him number one. Like, let's get this over with.
Well,
Especially with Abdul Carter not participating. You know what I'm saying?
with that, interviews are taking place at the combine right now, and both Titans and Browns decision makers have said some pretty eye-opening things about Travis. Brian Callahan, Titans head coach, when asked about Travis Hunter playing both ways in the NFL, said it's very realistic. He's got the ability to play both. I think you're going to find out where he fits with if you were to get him, but he's got a really unique ability to do a lot of things. You got to put your teeth in a position first when you see where you add him in. What do you do with a player like him where you first start, and where does he help you on all sides of the ball, and he can return punts? I mean, he's got a really unique skill set. They think he can play both ways. Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, said, well, I'd say this. In terms of Travis Hunter, cornerback or receiver, the answer is yes. He can play both. I think that's what makes him special. We would see him as a receiver primarily first, but I think part of what makes him a bit of a unicorn is the fact that he can do both at a high level.
That's the first time I think I've heard someone say that from the NFL side.
Yep.
But I think it's because they have two good corners.
Well, and Barry said, going on, I do think that's just an element where his superpower is. It's his ball skills. It's a position where you can use it 100 times during the season versus maybe 30 on the high end at cornerback. And that's
what we've been saying.
Exact for the last 2 years.
Yep. Imagine though, like you could just let Travis in like a dime pack. Let's say you were so set at corner that you could bring Travis on in third and long situations in like a dime package and just let him rob.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like we've never seen him be able to read a quarterback's eyes like that from the snap. You know, he's got to like guard someone in man-to-man coverage. Imagine he's just able to float out there.
I wouldn't rule it out.
Crazy, bro.
I mean, also with this kind of both ways thing, going back to the real analytics stat, Travis's average transition time, so when a receiver makes his break, kind of reacting to that, you know, getting in and out of transition, 0.24 seconds. That's part of why he has an elite in-game athleticism score, is because of his transition skills. And if you just watch the guy, it's completely
the TCU
obvious.
pick, the UCF
Absolutely.
pick.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and from Andrew Berry, the Cleveland Browns GM, and it makes me think that if he's there at 2, like especially because Cleveland, they don't really have a number one receiver, right? Like Jerry Jeudy is solid. I think they really like Cedric Tillman, their young guy who they just drafted this past year, the year before, and I like his game as well too. But that makes me think that, like, I don't know, man. I can't wait to see where he's gonna go. I feel like Cleveland would be a good spot for either Shedeur or Travis because I like the GM, because I like the coach. There are some pieces there, but it is good to hear a GM say that they see him as a receiver primarily first, because I agree. Like, if I was running it, he would be my wide receiver 1, and I would use him sparingly, not sparingly, but when I see best, when I see fit on defense. You know, I heard Mel Kiper yesterday talk about the inverse, where he was like teams use him primarily as a cornerback, and then in special situations, you know, playoff games, Super Bowl, like that type of situation on a receiver. And I was like, that's interesting, but I would do the opposite. Like, I see Justin Jefferson type potential at receiver for Travis Hunter. Like, walking 100 catches, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. Yep. And then if you can use him, again, you're playing a team that has 3 really good receivers. You use him quite a bit on defense that game. You're playing a team that has a dominant, wide receiver 1. Yep. You use him in that situation more than you would typically. So that's just kind of how I would see it. It's interesting that obviously all these GMs, these decision makers, have different views about how they should and would use him.
Well, and to me, it all comes down to, like, can you just use your brain a little bit to try and come up with something that no one's ever done before?
Yeah.
Like, as a coach, that's your job. What's wrong? Let's just say you have I'm going to use the Broncos because it's a roster I know the best. So you have Pat Surtain. You already know you've got him, and he's going to lock down the number 1.
Right.
But that huge Bengals game that the Broncos had late in the season, Riley Moss, who had a great season, was getting cooked by T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Why would it was a lot of third down stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Let's just say you had Travis Hunter on offense and you were using him a lot there. Just bring him in on third down to cover T. Higgins.
Exactly.
Why not?
Yeah.
But like, I think that conventional NFL thinking would say, like, oh, you gotta keep your guy out there. Like, that's your number 2 corner.
Right.
And for me, it's like, yeah, I'm just trying to win. So I'm gonna put the better player out there on their wide receiver 2 to get a stop on third down to get the ball back to Travis Hunter on offense.
That's the challenge with Travis, I think, is he's completely unconventional, unique, a unicorn. And with that, you have to think that way. You have to think the way you've never thought before if you're an NFL head coach who has him. You can't be lazy with this decision and just go real quickly, all right, he's going to play this at wide receiver, this at corner, let's go. Yeah. Like, that's the plan. That can't be the plan. The plan has to be ever changing. Like, you have to go through all the steps of rookie minicamp, training camp, preseason, early season, then October, like, split the season up and figure out exactly how you can get the most out of Travis while preserving his body for the long term.
I think ideally the plan changes week to week on who you're playing against.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the ideal way to go about it. You're playing a really good defense. You're going to be playing more receiver this week, Travis. You're playing, like I said earlier, a team with 2, 3 really good receivers or 1 dominant receiver. Travis, you're going to be spending more time in the defensive meeting room this week. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's ideally how it would happen. And again, part of the reason, like I said, Cleveland, I think would be a good fit is because I think Kevin Stefanski would be that type of creative coach who can maybe go outside the box and use Travis in ways that maybe some other coaches or, front office guys wouldn't use him.
And you can get even more granular with the matchup stuff. Like, okay, well, we have our wide receiver 1, and we know that this team has a corner that they're going to match up with him. The other guy's really short. We're just going to throw jump balls to Travis all day, back shoulder. Like, his, they're not going to be able to stop him. It's why if I'm an NFL GM, I just want him just for the fun of it.
For real.
If you get away from the box and start thinking outside of it, you're going to have so much fun using Travis Hunter to exploit matchups and beat teams.
You'll have one of the most unique teams in the league.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, you'll be one of the hardest to scheme against and play against every single week.
And going back to what you said about his comp, I think that Travis Hunter's unicorn nature is actually distracting people from what his comps are. If he was just a wide receiver, he would be getting comped to Justin Jefferson.
Bro,
consistently.
Nobody brings that up. Nobody brings up Travis Hunter comps for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? And if they do, it's always like the Chris Gamble or the Woodson.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No, on offense,
right.
On offense, he's Justin Jefferson. On defense, he's Champ Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
I mean,
imagine not picking him.
The closest overall comp to him is Deion Sanders. Honestly,
yes. And but no one was talking about Deion Sanders at the time. His offensive comp.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
True.
Travis Hunter's the first player ever that you got to have 2 comps for.
Yep.
Literally.
And so to round this out, the way Brian Callahan spoke about him, that first quote, it's very realistic. He's got the ability to play both. He's got a really unique ability to do a lot of things. Does that sound generational to you?
Yeah. I mean, it's not effusive enough, but yes.
I mean, he's got to play it down.
Yeah, of course.
I think after the combine, we start to hear the Travis Hunter first overall buzz pick up.
Yeah.
Do we want to do recruiting today, or do you want to do it tomorrow? How many
Save it for
questions do we
tomorrow.
have, Dion? All right, we'll do recruiting tomorrow. Okay. We'll do recruiting tomorrow. We'll go to questions right now. What's up, King Mars? What are your expectations with Coach Faulk in the room?
Just elevation. The same way that Warren Sapp elevated the defensive line room, I think Marshall Faulk is going to elevate the running back room, and maybe even more because there's a lot more room to grow.
Yeah.
I also think you're going to see some sort of breakout that you weren't expecting because Coach Faulk is going to get through to one of these guys in a way that unlocks something in them, and that could be anyone from Michael Welch to Brandon Hood to Dallan Hayden or anyone.
Yeah.
But I think you are going to see a big time elevation of the way that these guys play and the way that they carry themselves.
I think part of that elevation is the fact that these guys, potentially some of them are going to be playing for somebody like that they literally grew up watching. Like, idol might be too far, but like you don't want to let somebody like a Marshall Faulk down.
Right.
And you're a college football running back. It's part of the reason why I feel like this cornerback room has been so good under Deion Sanders. Why this defensive line, like you mentioned, was so good under Warren Sapp. Like when you're playing for somebody that you might have grew up watching, that you know has a yellow jacket, like it almost gets to a point where like I can't let bruh down. Like I gotta go harder than maybe I even was going harder before. And I feel like we're gonna see some remnants of that with this running back room here under Coach Faulk.
Also, like, just mentioning that, like, you know, these guys are really young. I was even a little young for Marshall Faulk, but
Same.
I vividly remember The Greatest Show on Turf.
Yeah.
Like, just go watch some highlights.
For real.
It was so electric.
Yeah, man. That team was different.
And it was like transformative. Like we had never really seen nothing like that. Like from the running back spot, from like the air it out like that, like the Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce,
Yes.
like that was.
Don't forget about Ricky Prohl, bro.
True.
I mean, everywhere. That's why they were what they were. They were unstoppable.
Yeah.
My expectations are, I hope it's mentality that Coach Faulk brings more than anything. Just the mentality that there's no question, you know, yeah, we've been bad the last 2 years, but there's not a question about it this year. We are running the ball. We are going to run it better. Everyone is going to have a role in this, and we're going to do it differently than we have the last 2 years.
I mean, that was mentality was a big part of Warren Sapp as well. Remember, he came in and he said, I was watching teams just run the ball over.
Right.
And I said, when I get there, that ain't happening anymore.
Exactly.
Bro, I can imagine Marshall Faulk having a similar sentiment. Like I've been watching my guy Coach Prime in Colorado the last couple of years.
Right.
And it's just frustrating. They could just never consistently run the football.
Man, I hope that's how he answers that question
I
this
feel
spring.
like I could see that for sure.
King Mars, do we still have the spring portal? Yes, April 16th through the 25th. 10 days. Coach Flea is not here. Is he replacing Coach Robinson? That's a good question. I don't know.
Surely.
I'm sure someone will eventually join the staff, but Coach Robinson kind of floated. I mean, he did special teams last year, helped with the running backs too.
Was going to be assistant running backs this year.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
I could see them bringing in someone else alongside Marshall Faulk, you know, first year coaching for him. Just
I think they will.
so.
Yeah. I think they'll bring in, if I were to guess, it'll be like a long time seasoned running backs coach who maybe even has been out of the game for a couple years. But, you know, Coach Prime has a relationship with him, or someone in the building has a relationship with him, and he comes in to kind of be like a mentor.
SN Services, where's the tight end transfer from Ohio State that's from Colorado? Sam Hart. I believe he's still on the roster.
Yeah.
An injured end of last season, near the end of last season.
Yep, he did. That's right.
That was not fun to watch.
No, it wasn't.
He is, what number was he last year? Yeah, he's still on the roster.
81, right? Yeah.
What are the odds for Shedeur being drafted number 1 overall?
The actual odds or what we think?
I'm looking up the
Why do you
actual
look that
odds.
up? Brian Callahan, the Titans GM, said yesterday that if the Titans take
Titans
a
head
quarterback,
coach.
Thank you. Titans head coach Brian Callahan said yesterday that the Titans, if the Titans take a quarterback first overall, that player would be expected to be a day one starter, not to sit and learn, which might be obvious to some people, but it's nice to hear him say that out loud.
In my opinion, you've got the most day one starter ready quarterback in a long time on the board.
And probably number 2 because Cam has played a ton of football over the last 4 years as well.
Yep.
Shedeur is plus 600 at Bet365 to go first overall.
There you go.
Would you get it at before the season?
400.
Yeah, not great. I got it.
But again, I just got it as like a novelty souvenir. If it happens, I'm like, told you.
It'll hit.
What position do you think hits the portal first? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a guess on that, to be honest.
It's a weird thing to guess on.
Yeah. Quentin Gibson with 10 pounds could be Dylan replacement. No. Think that's easier said than done.
No. Dylan, Quentin Gibson is a wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No. I'm
Dylan's still a
answering the
running
question.
back at Hart for sure.
Yeah. Freddie, how much did the O-line affect the running back stats? Wasn't the offense built to pass the ball? Which limits RB touches? It's kind of like a chicken and egg thing, right? Like,
I think absolutely the offensive line was built to pass protect
I agree.
as best they could.
I mean, the mantra before the season was "Don't touch 2." Like that was very much the emphasis.
Totally. Those guys were brought here because Shedeur Sanders was on his back so much the year before that he injured his back. And so, yes, I mean, if you think about it, just, simplifying it down to like Madden ratings. When Colorado went into the portal, if there's a guy who was high pass blocking, low run blocking, they were still interested in that guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a guy high run blocking, low pass blocking. That guy was not of interest to them.
Yep.
This year, I think they went a lot more run blocking in what they searched for, and yes, I think you will see the effects of that.
Yep. Agreed. King Mars again. Which buff has the fastest 40? Combine buff?
Combine buff,
Or
Jimmy
current
Horn
buff?
Jr. Current buff, Cam Michael.
Yeah, current buff is Cam Michael easily, I think. I mean, Quentin Gibson could push him. Maybe not yet. But, yeah, I think it's Jimmy.
Or
Definitely.
Travis. Could you imagine?
Bro,
Could you imagine if Travis runs the
Jimmy
fastest?
goes out there, runs 4.34, and we're like,
Right.
oh my god,
Yes.
that's sick. And then Travis goes 4.33.
Would be unreal.
it would be.
It would be pretty fun. Like, it would mean so much more to all of us who have had the who's the fastest guy
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
the team
Exactly.
conversation like 30 times over the last 2 years and never once said Travis.
Be crazy.
That's the thing. That means way more for us than it does for anyone else. Like, I mean, us as in Buff Nation. Like, there's been so much talk about speed numbers, racing, who's the fastest, that
I would love to find out that the people who love Travis Hunter more than anyone were underestimating it.
for real. Simply Jen asked, why is no one talking about Bentley? It's like he vanished from the earth. He has graduated. He's not on the team.
Maybe they're talking about from an NFL perspective. He's going to get a shot.
He'll probably get a camp invite. But, yeah, he hasn't been invited to anything. So,
Yeah.
hello, Shelly. Which position pays more? Oh, gosh, what is she talking about?
Wide receiver or corner.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Wide
it's
receiver pays more
now.
by a lot.
5-7 years ago, though, it was the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I was kind of, and I've brought this up before on a show before, maybe even 2 shows, and I thought about it earlier too. Like, that's what kind of makes me think, or wonder rather, about like how much down the line factors into how you utilize Travis during his rookie contract, right? Because if you use him more at one position or the other, will you pay him at that position that he played more of? If he is a true 50-50 split, then how do you do that? Because that's truly never been done before.
He's going to be one of the most fascinating cases
He will be.
in this moving forward.
Because if you use him like 50-50 both ways, like it'll get to a point, I feel like if he plays like how we know he can play, like
Yeah,
he's
what
going
if
to be
he
played
gets-
like a quarterback.
Yeah, what if he gets all pros on both sides of the
Yeah,
ball?
bro.
Like,
You're going to have to pay him like a quarterback.
Yeah.
And like you could, a GM might not be interested in that.
Sure.
Even if he's great and that's awesome, just from a payroll team building perspective, you might not be willing to do that. And that might prevent you from, like I said, allowing him to play both ways.
His agency is going to have to get creative, I think.
Yeah.
When they get to the negotiating table. It's not going to happen in his rookie contract, which
no, of
is a
course not.
huge advantage for whatever team drafts him. You can't after 2 weeks go say you're playing on both sides of the ball. You got to pay him 2 salaries. Sorry, rookie pay
Right.
scale is slotted. We we did the best we could. After that, though, like what if there was Justin Jefferson makes $35 million a year.
Uh-huh.
Pat Surtain makes $24 million a year.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yes. And what if you were to say, like, okay, there's a bonus built in that if you were to get all pro at both positions, you get a $20 million bonus. You know what I mean? Rather than the salary being doubled or whatever. Like,
True.
You want to negotiate something better than that and more money overall. But I'm just saying they're going to have to get creative because, again, no precedent. Just like the coaching staff is going to have to get creative how to use him, the agency's going to have to get creative on how to get him paid for who he is.
No doubt. I feel like you're going to have to get ahead of it, too. Like, you don't want to be having this conversation, right before negotiations start. Like, I feel like after his rookie year is when you kind of want to start building the groundwork, potentially, of what something might look like.
I'm sure Travis's camp will start that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, after his rookie year, if he plays as much both sides of the ball as we think he will,
it's time to start
they
thinking
should
about
start,
it. Because it's just like a quarterback again. Like, if you know you got your guy at quarterback, you want to get that done sooner rather than later because the price is only going to go up.
And if he were to get all pro on both sides of the ball, which sounds crazy now, but he was all conference on both sides of the ball, all American on both sides of the ball, Heisman Trophy winner. He deserves $60 million a year.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
He's filling 2 roster spots for you.
Yep.
100%.
Do we have anything else, Dion? That's it. All right, chat. Say goodbye to Scotty for the rest of the week.
Say goodbye to Scotty. He's axed.
Period. It's been fun, y'all. Had a blast.
No.
Going home? Soon. Yeah, going back to the crib.
We all silly like the mayor.